Hello, Jeralyn. I'm Mark Kleiman from UCLA and the reality-based community.
Hi, Mark. I'm Jeralyn Merritt. I'm a criminal defense attorney in Denver, and I write TalkLeft, the politics of crime at TalkLeft.com.
A wonderful blog, and I hope we get a chance to talk about crime sometime. But I guess today our topic is politics, and in particular, what happened last night. What happened last night was that Hillary Clinton, in a state that she'd been leading by 20 or 25 points, and where she had the support of a very powerful Democratic machine and a very popular governor, won by 9.4 percentage points. Picked up about 10 net delegates from what had been Obama's lead of about 170 pledged delegates. And so this is the third consecutive big state favorable to her, where she won and basically made no dent in Obama's lead. And with North Carolina, which looks quite favorable to Obama coming up, and Indiana, which looks like no worse than a wash, I think we'll finish the primary in early May pretty much where we were before Ohio and Texas voted, with Obama with a large pledged delegate lead that Clinton's been unable to eat into, and with the superdelegates still breaking for Obama. And so it seems to me now, as it seemed to me a month ago, that the campaign is effectively over, and the only question is when the Clinton campaign will admit that it made its best try and fell short, and it's time to rally around the nominee.
Well, not surprisingly, I see it completely differently. I think that this race is wide open, and I think that Hillary's win last night in Pennsylvania was a big deal. Whether she won by 9 points or 10 points, I'm not really sure. I thought it was 10. But the fact remains that she is winning in the big states, and it is the big states that Democrats need in November. She is winning with blue-collar voters. She's winning with the women voters. She's winning with the voters that think religion is a big deal. She's winning with the voters that think gun rights are a big deal. She's winning with Catholics. She's winning with everybody except, it appears, the African-American voters and the younger voters and the wealthier, more liberal voters. And she has won the last several big states. And Obama really hasn't won any big states that were likely to win in November other than Illinois, his home state. When you get into the pledged delegates and you get into the popular vote total, you know, he may be ahead now, but the superdelegates have other factors to consider. They need to consider who is more likely to beat John McCain in November. The superdelegates are still weighing this issue. There's no hurry. The convention is 4 months away. We have plenty of time. This race is still viable for Hillary Clinton. She's going to do well in Indiana. She's going to do well in Kentucky. North Carolina, she may not do so well in, but North Carolina may not go Democratic in November anyway. We need to see who can best beat John McCain, and I think the fact that she raised $2.5 million online last night since the polls closed shows that a lot of people think it's her.
All right, well, a couple of different questions here. First off, it's 9.4 was the split. It rounds to 10 because the networks round her number up and his number down. But it was a 9.4, right? That's about half the lead she started with, which has been characteristic. She started ahead 20 points in Ohio and won by about 10 points.
But last week, the poll, there were polls saying that Obama was ahead, there were polls saying that she was only ahead by 2 or 3 points. I don't really trust the polling so much either, but we don't have to deal with polling now because we have actual results.
Right, we have actual results, and in states that she regarded as her firewall, very favorable to her demographically, she's failing to pick up delegates. And that, it seems to me, is fatal.
But address the question of what do the superdelegates do, and leave aside for a minute the pledged delegates and the popular vote count. Humor me and assume for the moment that after all of the states are done, she's close to him. He's ahead, but she's close to him in the popular vote and the delegate total. What do the superdelegates do then?
Define close. How close does she have to be?
Close enough that people have thoughts.
Okay. Would she have to be within 100?
No, I'm not going to put a number on it. I'm just saying close.
Well, I don't consider 100 close. And I don't think there's any way.
Well, I consider 150 close. So,
huh?
I think 150 is close. And, but let's not, just assume that they're close. However you define close. What do the superdelegates do? Fine,
I'll accept your definition. Let's call 150 close. That seems like a reasonable guess that she picks up another 10 net delegates. That means she needs to get 80% of the remaining uncommitted superdelegates. Since Super Tuesday, including her, in the 6 weeks since her wins, as she calls them, in Texas and Ohio, Barack Obama has picked up 80 net superdelegates, and Hillary Clinton has picked up net 5 superdelegates. This morning, the governor of Ohio, governor of Oklahoma, a superdelegate, right? This is after last night. This is after everything you just recited, announced for Barack Obama. None of the people who make a living winning elections, particularly in contested states, are breaking for Hillary Clinton. All of her superdelegate lead comes from people who committed to her back when she was Ms. Inevitable.
Oh, no, wait a minute. That's not true. She got 4 superdelegates last week. So that's definitely
that's right.
not true.
That brought her up to a grand total of 5.
Well, but that's not true to say that that all of her superdelegates are from months ago.
Not all of them. I said her superdelegate lead is from months ago.
But she's still ahead in superdelegates.
Yeah, her superdelegate lead has gone from 60 to about 22, and you're claiming that after all is said and done, with her having picked up not very much more ground in pledged delegates, if any at all, that 80% of the remaining superdelegates will suddenly stampede to the candidate who won fewer contests, has fewer pledged delegates, and has fewer popular votes. It's just not plausible.
Yes, because what I'm saying is that electability is going to be a key factor for superdelegates in deciding whether to back Barack Obama or Hillary Clinton. And I don't think that, and you still haven't addressed the electability argument, which is, let me make the argument. Look, the fact of the matter is that Hillary Clinton has shown that she can win the big states, and the Democrats are not going to win in November unless we take Florida, Ohio, Pennsylvania, big states like that. And the superdelegates are going to think about it. Hillary Clinton picked up a superdelegate today, and Barack Obama picked up a superdelegate today. We have to let the race play out. We have to let everybody vote, and then we'll see where we stand. There's no hurry. I think the momentum is on Hillary's side right now. I think she's right that the tide is turning, and we're just going to have to wait and see how it plays out.
Well, there are 2 claims that you made, neither of which I agree with. Right? One is that the fact that Clinton is beating Obama with the support of the Ohio and Pennsylvania machines in primaries means that she and not he will win those states in November. Going into November, he will have the enthusiastic support of Ed Rendell. He will have the enthusiastic support of Governor Strickland, even assuming Strickland isn't his running mate. And so it seems to me overwhelmingly likely that we'll do fine in those states. The difference is... Except that he doesn't have the blue-collar voters, and I don't see how the Democrats win Pennsylvania or Ohio without the blue-collar voters. But the fact that those voters prefer Clinton to Obama doesn't mean they would prefer McCain to Obama. So to say he doesn't have the blue-collar voters, you're saying he doesn't have them in a completely different context. And you're ignoring, somehow all of the states that Obama carries that by bigger margins, don't count. Wisconsin is a swing state. He carried Wisconsin by 18 points over Hillary Clinton. Does that mean she would lose Wisconsin? But how can you compare Wisconsin to Florida or Ohio? And just to answer how the Democrats can win in November if they don't carry one of those big states like Pennsylvania, Ohio, or Florida. It's clear to me that either Democratic candidate would carry Pennsylvania against McCain in November, and I don't think Clinton can win without carrying Ohio or Florida or both. I think Obama can, because he will probably carry Virginia. He has a very good chance in North Carolina. He's a much better competitor in Colorado. He's got the upper Midwest solid. He's got the Pacific Northwest solid. And remember, Washington and Oregon have been swing states. And he beat Hillary Clinton in Washington by, 20 percentage points?
But why would Democrats take a chance when we know that Hillary Clinton is a proven vote getter in these big states like Ohio, Pennsylvania, and Florida?
She is not proven.
Why would we take a chance on someone like Barack Obama, who repeatedly in almost all of these races has shown that he has a hard time getting the blue-collar voters, the white voters, the women voters, and the older voters, and the Catholic voters even. I mean, all of these groups go for Hillary. She's got a better chance of bringing these states in November. And all I'm saying is, that may be my view, your view may be different, but the question is going to be, what is the superdelegates' view going to be?
And the superdelegates have been voting with their feet for Barack Obama. So obviously, your view is not.
Hillary's ahead in superdelegates right now, and they're still weighing in. And, her campaign got a new breath of life last night. And it's reflected in the fact that she made $2.5 million. They're also going to consider, why can't Obama close the deal? Here he was in Pennsylvania, where he spent 6 weeks campaigning. He outspent her 3-1 on advertising, and he still didn't bring it home. He's risky in November.
Well, you assert that. But I don't see the evidence for that. The fact that Hillary Clinton.
Well, I just gave it to you.
No, but wait a second. But you're offering evidence that's not relevant. Hillary Clinton has beaten Barack Obama in those demographics in Democratic primaries. Are you asserting that those voters are going to vote for John McCain in November? No, of course they're not. Those voters are going to vote for either Democrat.
I'm saying that the majority of voters in those states are more likely to go with the Democrats if Hillary's the nominee than if Barack Obama is.
But when you
and I'm not saying that Hillary voters are going to stay home if Barack Obama gets the nomination, and I'm not saying that they're going to vote for McCain. But there's a lot of voters in the middle there, and I just think that the blue-collar voters are sending a message, and the message is that for whatever reason, they either don't trust Barack Obama, or they don't think he's experienced enough, or they don't think his plans are good enough. But whatever the reason is, Hillary seems to have those voters when Obama doesn't.
Well, but flip it over. Obama seems to have African American and young voters and independents. I guess so. Are you saying that Hillary Clinton wouldn't get the African American vote against McCain? Of course not. I mean, so look, each group is carrying its own demographic.
Obama has the African American vote, and that he has the younger voters. And I do think that the African American voters will vote for Hillary if she's the nominee. The question with the younger voters is, will they turn out if Hillary's the nominee to the same extent that they have turned out for Obama? But I don't know that that is so critical, because they are a small portion of the overall electorate anyway. It's the older voters that are more important, because there's so many more of them.
And again, are you claiming...
And they're turning out for Hillary.
They're turning out for Hillary, but the question is, you keep switching the topic. Yes, I agree, there are demographics where Hillary Clinton does better in primary elections against Barack Obama. And there are demographics where Barack Obama does better in primary elections against Hillary Clinton. The question is, in a general election, which one will turn out more of the Democratic vote, and which one is more competitive for the independent and Republican vote? Now, the polls are quite clear that Obama gets a big chunk of the independent vote and a reasonable chunk of the Republican vote, and Hillary is the candidate the Republicans most want to run against because she turns out their base like nothing else.
No, and see, I disagree with that. I think
in
Hillary
2000,
is better
against
run
a very
against John
weak
McCain
Republican
because
candidate.
because you take the experience argument out of it when it's between Hillary and John McCain. I mean, no one is going to. She is as experienced as him, and then you also have the issue that people see her as a better commander in chief, and people see her as being better on national security issues.
I don't know which people you're referring to. I mean, I know those are the Clinton campaign talking points.
Issues.
I know that Hillary Clinton has been doing her best to convince the American public that Barack Obama is not fit to be president, where John McCain is.
Well, see, now, again, we're going to have to disagree on that because I don't think that she has said Barack Obama is not fit to be president. She has said, and it's Barack Obama who said that John McCain would be a better president than George Bush.
Well, wouldn't he?
That's just not true. Hillary has said she will go out, she will campaign for Obama if he's the nominee. I haven't heard Obama say that about Hillary. I just don't see him as the unity candidate that you do. I think that if it's a toss-up, if it's a race between McCain and Hillary, I think Hillary is a better match. And, I think superdelegates, again, they're going to be the most concerned about who can bring in the swing states, the key states, the toss-up states, who can keep the 20 states we won in 2004, and who can bring in these other big states. What has Barack Obama done to show that he can win those states?
He's won more contests than Hillary Clinton has, right? He's gotten more popular votes than Hillary Clinton has. He's got more delegates than Hillary Clinton has.
Are contests that the Democrats are going to win in November, and how many are in the big states?
Well, if you look at Virginia and Wisconsin combined, that's larger than Pennsylvania. And Obama's margins against Clinton in Virginia and Wisconsin were much larger than Clinton's margins against Obama in Pennsylvania and Ohio. So I just don't see the argument. She wins the big states. What big states has she won?
Well, I think almost everybody, everybody I know and everybody I'm reading agrees that she has demonstrated through these primaries that she gets the big states and that she gets the blue-collar voters and that she's better getting the rural voters. What
big states, right?
And I think those voters are going to matter in November.
Right. All right, so what big states has she carried? Pennsylvania and Ohio. Right? New York, Illinois, and California all give me some Democrats.
Don't forget Florida. You might want to write it off, but you can't write Florida off. They both were on the ballot. Record numbers of Floridians came out to vote, and she won it handily. She won Texas. She won the popular vote in Texas.
Are you seriously arguing?
She won California. She won New York. She won Massachusetts.
Right.
She won New Jersey.
Jeralyn,
she won the big states.
Are you seriously?
Are
you seriously arguing that either Democratic candidate could lose Massachusetts, New York, or California, or that either Democratic candidate could win Texas?
No, I haven't said either one would lose. You asked which big states has she won.
No, I'm saying
I just gave you the list.
Okay.
She's won almost
most of them are irrelevant.
No, they're not irrelevant. They're irrelevant to you. How can you possibly say that Florida, Ohio, or Pennsylvania are going to be irrelevant?
Florida, Ohio, and Pennsylvania are all relevant, right? I'm not denying that.
You're saying they're relevant or irrelevant?
They're relevant. All the other ones you listed,
okay,
Massachusetts, New York, Illinois, California, Texas, are either solidly Democratic or solidly Republican. It doesn't matter at all that Hillary Clinton carried Texas against Barack Obama with Rush Limbaugh's help, because she's not going to carry it against John McCain. Neither's he. North Carolina, on the other hand.
I agree that Texas, I agree Texas is unlikely to go Democratic. Your question to me was which big states has she won, and I gave you the list.
But
the fact is that of the states that we need to win in November that are considered either toss-ups or that are at risk, even though they traditionally are Democratic, those are the states she's won. And that happens to be Florida, Ohio, and Pennsylvania. And, let's not leave Michigan out of this either. Michigan, if Michigan Democrats' votes don't count in going towards who's the nominee, that could put Michigan at risk in the general election.
Well, obviously, once the thing is resolved, they were going to figure out a way to seat something from Florida and something from Michigan. I mean, that's not hard, right?
Oh, well, yeah, but if Michigan and Florida's votes and delegates don't count towards going to who the nominee is going to be, and that nominee is Barack Obama, I don't think you can count on Democrats in either of those two states to come out for Barack Obama in November, and who could blame them?
It's certainly true that the Clinton campaign is doing everything it can to put Florida out of reach and Michigan at risk if Obama's the nominee. That's their whole strategy. Is to make Obama unelectable.
And then we'll have all the Democrats in those states.
Huh?
Let them count towards who the nominee is going to be.
How? I mean, the federal court just ruled that the Michigan vote was unconstitutional, right? So that's not even on the table anymore. The Florida vote was, by rules that everybody agreed to beforehand, ineligible. I mean, I don't consider a contest where neither side is allowed to campaign a real contest. Obviously, the candidate who back then had much higher name recognition won the election. That's no surprise.
That's such a specious argument in my view as to Florida. What we know about Florida is that there had been many, many debates. These candidates were in our living rooms on the TV all up until January when Florida voted, and Floridians came out in record numbers to vote. Mm-hmm. The fact that Barack Obama or Hillary Clinton didn't get to make personal campaign appearances in Florida is really small potatoes. We need to count these Florida votes, and we need to count the Michigan votes as far as I'm concerned.
Even though the federal court has now ruled that the election was unconstitutional.
And the Michigan voters were told, if you don't support Hillary, vote uncommitted. And that's what they did.
They were also told
you don't just disenfranchise two of the largest states just
they were
because
also told
the DNC
by Hillary
says
Clinton,
so.
Everybody knows this election is meaningless. You're saying she had her fingers crossed when she said that?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
Michigan voters were told by Hillary Clinton, everybody knows this vote is meaningless. That's back when she wanted votes from Ohio, from Iowa.
What the candidates agreed was that they weren't going to campaign in those states.
The candidates agreed that they were not going to participate.
You had John Conyers and his wife doing radio ads in Michigan, telling everybody if they supported Barack Obama, come out and vote uncommitted.
Right.
Barack Obama took his name off the ballot in Michigan, and I think it was a strategic move. He was behind in the polls at that time, and he wanted to minimize any kind of big win by Hillary. And how does he do that? He does it, and John Edwards did it too. They took their names off the ballot. But, we can agree or disagree on Michigan. Florida is a bigger issue, and Floridians came out in record numbers. And the point is, to me, that the superdelegates are going to look at, when they consider the total vote tally in all of the states, some of them are going to say the DNC may not consider Florida or Michigan, but I can consider it, and that's going to be a factor. And so the whole point is you want Hillary to drop out now, and there's no reason for her to. We've got 4 months to the convention. We've got 9 states left to vote. She got a breath of fresh air last night. She's raising money again. She will effectively compete in the rest of the states, and I think we should all just sit back and watch it. Let it unfold.
Sit back and watch the Clinton campaign do its best to destroy the likely Democratic nominee. That's what you're proposing.
That is just pure emotion talking, and, I'm not going to get pulled into these emotional arguments. I mean, this is a contest. It's a race. It has not been as bitter as you're making it out to be. Barack Obama has gone negative just like Hillary has. He's got the problem that he can't be negative because then that goes completely contrary to his platform of bringing change and not politics as usual to the race. So, that's been his platform. He's kind of stuck with it. But for the rest of us and for everyone else,
free to mention
we want to
Louis
see
Farrakhan
which one
on
of
national
the
TV
candidates
to
is
scare
going to
white
win,
voters.
and neither one has yet.
Jeralyn? When Hillary Clinton decided to mention Louis Farrakhan at the ABC debate.
I can't hear. I'm sorry. I can't hear you.
When Hillary Clinton decided to mention Louis Farrakhan at the ABC debate, wasn't that intended just to scare white voters against voting for a black man? What other significance did that have?
You know, Hillary Clinton raised fair points at the debate, okay? Barack Obama wasn't prepared for the questions, and he didn't answer them very well.
Let me repeat my question.
That is not Hillary Clinton's fault. She didn't choose the questions.
What was her justification?
She brought up the points in her favor, and that's what we want the candidates to do.
What was her justification for mentioning Louis Farrakhan?
She did not trash Barack Obama, no matter how much you want to make that so.
Jeralyn?
On the other hand, you know, as I said, look at their speeches last night. Hillary gave a warm, unifying speech talking about how this is a historic race where either for the first time a woman or an African American is going to get the Democratic nomination. And he, in his speech, compared her to a typical Washington player, no different than people in the past. You know, he needs to rise above that. His hands aren't clean here of negative campaigning. His ads in Pennsylvania on her health care plan were not accurate. He's done this to her, too.
Jeralyn, let me ask the question one more time. What was her justification for bringing up the name of Louis Farrakhan, a name guaranteed to terrify white people?
Terrify white people? He doesn't terrify me.
You are not the voter that she was appealing to. Why did she mention his name?
Well, you know, now you keep going one more, you add one more so-called fact to your questions that aren't facts at all. You're assuming facts that are an issue.
Why did she mention Louis Farrakhan? You're her supporter.
You know, I'm not even, I'll have to go look at the debate transcript to see the context again. It meant so little to me at the time that I don't even remember the context it came up in.
It came up in the context of Jeremiah Wright, where she was perfectly happy to pile on to the notion that somehow Barack Obama should have left his own church based on her disagreement with a sermon she'd never heard. Right?
Okay, now again, you're going into all these suppositions, and I can't respond to questions.
Well, that's what she said. She said, "I would have left the church."
That they're factually accurate. She was. Reverend Wright was a question by the moderators of that debate. His bitter marks were a question by the moderators of that debate. His support for Reverend Wright was a topic of the debate. Should she just stay silent and let him, when she's asked her position on these issues?
And her descent into Tuzla under sniper fire was also a topic of the debate. And when the moderators brought it up,
and she answered that.
And when the moderators brought it up, Barack Obama said,
for being inaccurate.
When the moderators brought it up, Barack Obama acted like a good Democrat, and a gentleman, and he said, "Look, it's a long campaign. People get under stress. They say things they didn't mean to say. I think Hillary Clinton deserves a break on that." Right? He did not pile on.
Right, and the next day his campaign held a conference call criticizing her again over her inaccuracies. He wants to come out and say, "I'm not running a negative campaign. I'm not criticizing her on Tuzla," but he allows his surrogates and his campaign officials to do that in his stead. Right. To me, there's no difference. If his campaign people are doing it, if his surrogates are doing it, that's him.
10 million people watching on TV, and what happens in some campaign conference call?
Okay, speak up. I can't hear you again.
You think there's no difference between what goes on in some campaign conference call with reporters? And by the way, all of those things that you say the moderators brought up were things that the Clinton campaign had been relentlessly pushing, right? But there's a difference between what the campaign says.
They are things that Barack Obama put into play. Okay, these aren't issues Hillary Clinton created.
Mm-hmm. Just imagine.
She didn't create this. She didn't tell him to go to San Francisco and make these comments about the bitter white blue collar voters. He did that.
No, and he didn't tell her to tell that stupid lie about Tuesday.
Break the story. An Obama supporter who writes for Huffington Post broke the story.
Right, and presumably
why is that her fault?
Right. I don't think there's any doubt, and actually the voters of Pennsylvania, even those who voted for Clinton, didn't have any doubt about which side has made this campaign nasty. But whichever side has made it nasty, it's not doing the Democratic Party any good to carry it on. So now we have a choice. The candidate who's ahead can drop out and concede. The candidate who's behind and isn't going to catch up could drop out and concede. Or we could fight it on to the benefit of the Republicans. You know which one I'd like.
Well, you know what? We don't know who that candidate is going to be, and I think it's pretty arrogant and presumptuous for someone to suggest that Hillary Clinton, who has just won 3 of the large primaries in the last 2 months, should drop out. Let the voters have their say. There's 9 states left. 1 person, 1 vote. It's what our democracy was founded upon. And don't call for her to drop out. There's no reason for her to drop out. We have 4 months to the convention. We have plenty of time. There'll be plenty of time to fight John McCain. And we are in a race, and it's still viable for Hillary Clinton.
Right.
Barack Obama hasn't won yet. There's no reason for her to drop out. I think we should let's move along to Indiana and North Carolina and what happens next. What do you think is going to happen?
North Carolina is going to be about 20 points for Obama. Indiana is going to be 10 points one way or the other. So since North Carolina is about twice the size of Indiana, and since it's actually in play for November, but he's going to pick up more delegates in North Carolina alone than she will have picked up in Pennsylvania and Indiana if she wins it. So after these,
and why do you think North Carolina will vote Democratic in November when it didn't for John Kerry and John Edwards when Edwards is from North Carolina?
Well, let's remember that Edwards had already dropped out of the Senate race because he couldn't get reelected in North Carolina when he decided to run for president. Let's not forget that Edwards this time was running 3rd in North Carolina in the polls. That's part of the reason he dropped out. But the reason I believe that Obama is competitive against McCain is that the most recent polling in North Carolina has him even with McCain and Clinton 15 points behind, and that's before we get the benefits of party unity. So yes, he puts North Carolina in play. And in any case, in terms of the delegate race,
North Carolina may be in play, okay? But the question is, why will he win when John Edwards and John Kerry, and when other Democratic tickets have not won in North Carolina?
Well,
North Carolina has not really gone Democratic a lot. I mean, they did. Who did they go? What was the last one? Jimmy Carter?
I think Bill Clinton may have carried it, but I'm not sure. Might well have been Jimmy Carter. But that's the whole point about the Obama campaign. He broadens the playing field. He stops conceding 30 states to Republicans. And that's the hope. That's the reason that Democrats from potential swing states, the superdelegates, have been flocking toward Obama ever since Super Tuesday.
Let's move on to Indiana. I think that, I personally think that Barack Obama is going to lose by 10 in Indiana the same way he lost by 10 in Pennsylvania and the same as he lost by 10 in Ohio. Tell me why you think the blue-collar voters are going to come out for Barack Obama in Indiana and make it a closer race.
Well, there are a couple of big differences between India and the other two. In Ohio and Pennsylvania, I mean, these are old machine, regular Democratic states, and Clinton had the support of the extremely powerful governors. In Indiana, she's got Evan Bayh's backing, but he doesn't have anything like the same size machine. So that's one big difference. The second big difference is that Obama's better known in Indiana because it's a neighboring state to Illinois, right? The Chicago media market covers much of northwest Indiana. Yes, it's a very tough demographic.
So you think he has a hometown advantage in Indiana?
He has some hometown advantage, as she had some hometown advantage in Pennsylvania, which she doesn't have in Indiana. The other thing is, I just look at the numbers. The polling in Indiana has been all over the map. Obama ahead in some polls, Clinton ahead in some polls, and we've got 2 weeks of campaigning left. When we started out in Pennsylvania, she was 20 or 25 points ahead, and it finished up 9.5. When we started out in Ohio, she was 25 points ahead, and it finished 10. So the evidence is that during campaigns, he tightens things up. The pattern has been he tightens things up, and then the very last voters to decide break back for Clinton because she's been carrying the low education, low involvement voters. So, looks to me...
the low education voters.
Yeah.
Okay, here's why I think that Hillary is going to do better in Indiana. And I think that it doesn't require us to look at polls or anything else. I think we have seen a pattern now in big state after big state that Barack Obama cannot close the deal when it comes to blue-collar, rural voters. And I think we've seen that Hillary can. And I think exactly what we've seen in Ohio and Pennsylvania, we're going to see again in Kentucky, we're going to see it again in Indiana.
Well, wait a second. You say big states with rural blue-collar voters. First off, Indiana's hardly a big state. North Carolina's twice as big, and that's the one that Obama's going to win. What Indiana looks really a lot like is Wisconsin.
But Indiana demographically is very similar to Ohio.
It's also quite similar to Wisconsin.
And it's similar to Pennsylvania. It's not that similar to North Carolina.
Yes, but it's pretty similar to Wisconsin. Lots of blue-collar, white ethnic voters, lots of rural voters, and Obama beat Hillary by, 20 points in Wisconsin?
Well, we'll see. But I think that Indiana is more like Ohio than it is like Wisconsin. And then, and don't forget, Wisconsin has those huge universities. Madison, that obviously was going to go huge for Obama.
Mm-hmm. Well, Bloomington and Notre Dame are not small universities, but okay. All right. Assume for the moment.
Well, all right. So we disagree about Indiana.
No, but let's agree about Indiana.
Kentucky?
Let's assume that Hillary Clinton carries Indiana by 10 points, which is where her margin in Ohio. Right. That'll be worth about 4 delegates net. Right.
And how many superdelegates will it be worth? How many superdelegates? The superdelegates are sitting back now. Mm-hmm. There may be a couple that come in the next couple of days or weeks that weigh in one way or the other. But then I think most of the ones that are as yet uncommitted are going to stay uncommitted until the voting's over.
Right.
And I think if Hillary racks up another win in Indiana the way she did Ohio and Pennsylvania, you're going to see more of them when the voting is over coming over to Hillary.
And why are they going to ignore North Carolina? Which is a bigger state?
I didn't say they're going to ignore North Carolina, but I do think that North Carolina is not as important in the grand scheme of things because I don't think that North Carolina is as likely to go Democratic in November.
Indiana has not gone Democratic in any election since 1964. Indiana is completely out of reach.
And but Indiana has that same demographic. Everybody, we tend to overlook who are Barack Obama's core constituents. And they seem to be African American voters, higher educated voters, and wealthier Democrats. And
younger people and independents
are just nationally not going to be enough.
Right.
Do you disagree?
No. I mean, look, obviously that by itself is not a winning coalition. Obama needs the working class white vote that's traditionally Democratic vote that Clinton's winning because she's the more traditional Democratic candidate, but that almost always comes home. And I don't see any reason to think it won't come home.
But
if you look at the
where's the sign he's going to bring them home in November when he loses primary after primary?
Well, because, as you say, Hillary Clinton, whom they love, is going to be campaigning out there. And the Democratic machines in Pennsylvania and Ohio are going to work hard for the Democratic ticket.
Bill Clinton would go out and campaign for him, too.
I'm sorry?
She said she will be out there
right.
campaigning
so
for him.
That's my answer to your question. Why do I think that the white working class Democratic vote is going to come home?
For once, say I will go out and campaign for Hillary if she's the nominee.
Well, you're changing the topic. You asked me the question why I think he can carry the white working class vote, and the answer is because the Democratic candidate does, and because the candidate who beat him.
And your answer is because Hillary's going to campaign for him?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and therefore, the argument that he's somehow a loser in November just doesn't hold up very well.
All right, I think let's do a little closing summation, okay?
Right.
I'll go first and give you the last word.
Okay.
All right, this race is open. Hillary Clinton got a breath of fresh air last night. The tide is turning. I think she is going to be opening the eyes of the superdelegates that she is the candidate better able to win in November against John McCain. She has shown that she can win the big states. She has shown she can win the older voters, the religious voters, the voters who care about gun rights. She can win the Catholic voters. She can bring in all these constituencies that Barack Obama has had trouble with. And I think that these are the people who are going to come out to vote one way or the other in November. I think she's better on national security with these voters. She's better with the experience argument. And I think that before all is said and done, we need to let all of the other 9 states vote, let everybody's votes count. She has every right to be in this race, the same as Obama, and we're not done yet.
Okay. Let's start. I agree that she has a right to be in the race. I mean, there's no law that says she has to drop out. I'm urging all the superdelegates to now move ahead and bring this thing to a close before the party bleeds to death. This campaign's gone on too long. Both candidates are seeing their negatives rise in the polls because of the damage they're doing to each other, and to some extent because of the damage they're doing to themselves. There's no arithmetic.
All right, we've made our... Oh, go ahead.
There's no arithmetic that's plausible that gets Clinton to the nomination. Right? Obama's going to pick up lots of delegates in North Carolina. Hillary might pick up a few in Indiana. The rest of the states will about balance themselves out. We're going to get to the end of June, after all those 9 million people have voted, exactly where we are today, with Obama somewhere like 160 pledged delegates ahead, which would mean that Hillary Clinton would need 80% of the remaining unpledged superdelegates. Since she's been getting very few superdelegates since Super Tuesday, and he's been getting a bunch, I don't see any reason to think that will happen. And since it seems to me he's going to be the nominee, it's better for everybody to be the nominee now rather than later. The claim that because Clinton has been carrying...
This is a closing statement.
Huh?
I thought this was a closing statement.
Right. The closing statement is, it's over, we should admit it's over, and get on to beating John McCain.
All right, well, now let's wait and see what happens on May 6th in Indiana and in North Carolina. Let's see what happens with the voters in Kentucky and Montana, in South Dakota, and in Oregon. And let's see what the superdelegates do. We've made our cases.
Okay. Thanks, Jeralyn.
All right, thanks, Mark.
Take care.